Hi, it's Bonnie Gray, and I'm so excited today to be here with Kathi Lipp.
My friend Bonnie, I'm so glad to be here with you.
Kathi lives right here in Silicon Valley, so all I had to do was jump in my car and drive over here, and we're in her neighborhood.
And actually, this is the park where we walk our puggle almost at least once a week, so it feels like home to me. It feels good.
Oh, well, if you are on Facebook and you jump to Kathi Lipp's Facebook page, you'll be able to see pictures of her cute little dog.
Yeah, I'm a little obsessed, I have to say.
Oh,
He's my
that's
prayer
good.
puggle. He lays on me when I'm praying in the morning, so I say, I pray for everybody longer because I don't want to disturb him. So he's a good guy.
That is so sweet. Well, we have a very important topic to talk about. We are in the part of the book of Finding Spiritual Whitespace where we're talking about clutter. Let me show you Kathy's book. We're going to cover us up for a little bit so you can see it. It says Clutter Free.
Yes. I'm very excited. I love this book, I have to say. I feel like this book, out of all my books, has had the biggest impact, not just on my readers, but on me.
I love the cover because it shows a sofa, a couch that's just free and comfortable, and I think that's at the heart of our longing.
Every woman wants that couch, but what they want is that couch with nothing on it.
Yes.
Not mount fold me, not dog hair. They want that couch because it represents a lack of distraction, I think. And to me, that's what is at the heart of Clutter Free.
Yes, yes. And one thing that happened, you know, when I was going through this very anxiety-ridden time in my life, when life got difficult, I noticed that it was harder for me to let go of things.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the house would become more and more filled with piles.
Right.
Up to the point where I couldn't stuff any more things in my closet. And so I wanted to hear from you because I had to learn that a lot of the reason why I was holding on to things, it had to do with my story. And so I wanted to hear, if you don't mind sharing a story as you went on your journey to declutter, what you learned about yourself.
Well, I think for so many people, decluttering is all the stuff that's on the counters and everything like that. But for me, while I was dealing with that, I was dealing more with some things that were stuffed in boxes. And I think we all have those things. And one of the big things I had to deal with was my wedding ring from my first marriage, because I've gone through a divorce. Yeah. So, you know, what do you do with your wedding ring? Because I didn't want, you know, I know some people throw it over bridges. That's not my story. That's not what I wanted. Because while that was an incredibly painful marriage, some really great things that I never want to forget came from that. I've got Justin and Kimberly, my 22 and 24-year-olds, who, you know, they love their dad very much, and I'm so glad. That's one of the best things that, you know, is coming out of this. But that ring was serving no purpose in my life. So even though it was probably the smallest piece of clutter I got rid of, it was one of the biggest emotionally. So I talked with my kids about it. I said, what do I do? You know, I wasn't asking, I was more asking their permission, because I said, you know, do you guys want this later on? They're like, no, we don't need it. They weren't attached to it emotionally. And that's what I needed to figure out. Was this going to be something hard for them? So, what's interesting is they said, but please don't share anything about it on Facebook. Now, I have their permission now. This happened probably 5 years ago or so. I'm not exactly sure, but I do have their permission now to share about it. And so what we did is I took it to a jeweler and I sold it, and we used the money. This is my kids and I and my husband and I talked about this, and we built a well. We helped to build a well in Africa with that money. And so, you know, while there was some good attached to it, now there's all sorts of good attached to it, because it's bringing life to people. Whereas in my jewelry box, it was doing nothing but, you know, pinging me every time. And I think that's what clutter does. It kind of pings you and reminds you, you know, you're not good enough, you haven't worked hard enough, you're lazy, all these kind of things. But I took the ping away, and I was able to say we were able to do something good with it.
What I love about this story, Kathi, is that it involved talking about this period of your life that was very difficult.
Yeah.
And I think when we don't want to touch it or deal with it, I know for myself, I realize I don't want to move things. I don't want to figure out, do I want to keep it or let it go? it's like I don't talk about it.
Right.
And it's like frozen there.
Yeah, and you feel you not only is it frozen, you feel
Yes,
frozen.
exactly,
Yeah, you feel
exactly
immobilized to take care of yourself and to
Yes.
take care of other people. So I do think it was really good for us to be able to talk that through. And I have to tell you, it was a tough conversation. You know, it just was, because you know, it'd be so much easier to ignore that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we talked it through, and my kids were behind the decision. And I was glad they told me at the time, don't post this on Facebook. I don't want people knowing about that. So that was okay. But they gave me the boundaries that they needed, and I gave them the boundaries I needed.
And I think that's something that, even though we have different stories, I agree. And I think that's one principle we can take from it, is that when we declutter, it helps to have a friend there.
Yes.
Or at least on the phone as you're doing it. Like,
yeah.
you could talk about that memory.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to let this go.
Right.
And just to share that story. And in that release, isn't it? Because you felt you had
it's
permission.
honored.
Like,
Yes.
even if his girlfriend said, like, yes, honor. Thank you.
It honors the process.
Yes.
It honors
The story,
piece,
what
the story.
happened.
Absolutely. And you know, when I was writing this book, I had some hard conversations with my mom too. And I don't know if you know this piece of Clutter Fre. I don't know if you know this, but you know, probably from reading the book, that my dad was a hoarder. And I don't know if I ever actually seriously called him that, but he just was. He was never on a TV show, but he was a hoarder.
Yeah.
I sent the manuscript off for this at 8:00 on September 5th.
Okay.
My dad passed away an hour later in the same room.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And the book is dedicated to my dad because,
Wow.
you know, we've had to have some really hard conversations
Wow.
about his stuff, about how do we honor him. I mean, these are
Wow.
questions that all of us are going to have to deal with at some point, and especially if you've had a challenging relationship with
Yes.
somebody, and then all that's left
Yes.
is the memories and the stuff.
Yes.
And so you have to figure out, how do I honor that person while still honoring
Yes.
the ones who are alive?
I think you touched on two things. One is, you know, honoring yourself. Like in that marriage, even though it couldn't continue,
Right.
you didn't want to let go of all the goodness that did
Right.
happen. And I think that that's one type of reason we hold on to things.
Yeah.
And then second, you were talking about your father. So there are positive memories of things we
Absolutely.
want to honor, and we feel bad. Like, I remember this time in my life, and if I let it go, it seems like I'll never have it again.
Right. And so
And
go
both
ahead.
situation involved talking.
Yes, and so talking with my mom, talking with my kids, what we had to do was be very purposeful with his stuff. He was a stamp collector, and when I first turned in the manuscript for this book, my editor's like, "How can you call stamp collecting hoarding?" I mean, like, he was imagining a few albums, and I'm talking an entire room where boxes are piled up to here with postage stamps and things like that. I mean, we're talking serious stuff.
He's a serious collector.
He was a serious collector.
Yes.
But there wasn't a lot of intrinsic value to it.
Yes.
And also, if you keep everything, then nothing is special. You know, that's the problem. So when we say, I can't get rid of anything because it'll be dishonoring to them, it's actually the opposite. It's saying, what are the things that are precious to me? And then how I'm going to honor him. So, you know, I kept a few photos, so photo albums. My mom's kept more stuff, of course, but there was a camera that was really important to him, and I've kept a few things that were super important to me. And then what we did is we took all of his stamps, not all of them, but a box of them, and we got these glass marbles at Michael's, a craft store, the flat marbles, and we decoupaged some stamps onto the bottoms of those and put magnets on them.
Beautiful.
And so at his memorial service, everybody had something that was precious to my dad. And so everybody took one of those home, or several of them home, depending on who they were. And, you know, so we were honoring him, but we didn't keep all of the stamps. We kept things that were precious to us and brought back good memories. That's what we wanted. We didn't want to be weighed down with the things that detracted from who we are and who he was.
What I love about what Kathi has shared with us is that in these two stories, they both surround situations where a chapter was closing in her life, saying goodbye to her father and honoring the memories, saying goodbye to a past marriage that was difficult but yet also had beautiful parts in it. And I think that that's a beautiful picture of why we can let go because you're living your life now.
Right, right. And you know, there are little losses along the way that are not a death or a divorce, but these little losses, you know, our child moving from kindergarten to first grade, or, you know, moving homes or things like that. That still, let's recognize those as losses and let's honor them, but let's not cling to them.
Yes, yes. So I guess I wanted to end this time with just sharing a few things that I had found helpful when I was decluttering. And one central theme that I think we're hitting on is, what is the life that we would like to live now? Our present life. Right. And then, like you said, the positive memories.
Yes.
And looking at our space, if there's, what is that space that we have, and embracing and accepting it and saying, okay, based on the space that we do have, what is it that we're going to say we are valuing now, we're going to use now.
That's good.
And then third is having a friend.
Yes.
So those are my three. So Kathi, I'd love to have you share with our readers, what are your top three?
Okay.
From Clutter Fre,
yes,
your Clutter Fre book, which everybody... Okay, Kathi keeps it real, and that's why I love her book. I don't have to go like, where is there going to be a page where I can relate to? You know, I love it. No, it's really practical. So
okay, so my top three. One, when you're struggling with getting rid of something, think about what is the core reason why you're struggling with it. I'm thinking it's probably fear, guilt, or shame. I think it's one of those three things. And so when you can recognize it for that, then you can deal with it. But when it's just like, oh, it's too much to deal with, then you'll never let go. So understanding fear, guilt, and shame. And then second is, look at the things around you that are not bringing you joy, that are not bringing you peace. I
love that.
You know,
I love that.
What is it when you open up that drawer that's pinging you? And then the third thing is create space. When I got home, I just came home from a trip, a very exhausting trip. I was with a good friend who's dealing with cancer. And it was so great to see her, but also exhausting. And when I came home, I dreaded doing laundry. Because I've got this initial kick thing to, you know, hate doing laundry. But I realized since I've lived clutter free, my drawers are half full.
Yeah, there's less work, right?
Right,
yes.
exactly.
If you have less things, then you have less effort to do.
You don't have to push things down.
Know.
Yes. And so when you have some space, I mean, you're talking about spiritual white space. I think, you know, space in your drawers in your living situation, that brings me joy and peace. And so to make sure that you create some space physically in your environment is huge.
Yes. I think that's a beautiful note to, you know, wrap up our time, because the physical affects your spiritual,
it really
right?
does. And vice versa. It really does. Because where you were stuffing because you were in a place of hurt.
Yes.
And it's all connected, baby. It's all connected.
And sometimes if you do one, it actually releases the other, doesn't it?
It really does.
They work together.
It really does. And I think you can start either place.
Yes.
You know, go where you're feeling the panic.
Yes.
And then work on that and see the results in both.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is such a great conversation. I know. I wish we had more time. Don't you think? Right? Yeah. Okay. So spend more time with Kathi through the pages of her book, and in your other hand, have the other companion, which is Spiritual Whitespace.
Yes, an amazing book, a healing book, really.
Yeah, I mean, both are. So I really am so happy that Kathi's here. Tell us where we can find you online.
Just go to KathiLipp.com. It's KathiLipp.com, and we've got all sorts of fun things and ways to help you deal with that space.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right, guys, please put into your comments any questions you have. We'd love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you challenged with in trying to get cluttered free? And second, what have you found that has been helpful? Because we all need tips. It's always ongoing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.